money line starts at the end of that headline. Starts right there underneath that ring finger. It goes a little bit skiwampus there and goes up that little finger. So your money line says one line, that's one income in your 20s, two incomes in your 30s and 40s. You've got two lines coming together there. And then you hit that end of that heart line. And then in your early 50s, well, I got two incomes then in your 30s, 40s, and 50s, early 50s. Then in your early 50s, then I get several lines in there, four incomes in there. Then they quit, and then you just got one line that, no, then you have two lines that go up. They'll still have two incomes. Excellent money line, absolutely excellent. I get 3 marriages for you, though. Ooh, you got one good marriage, a little bit later in your life. First marriage is good. Now, let me get to the side of that hand. Look at the end of the heart line. See, you got little tassels on the end of it. Those are flirt lines. Yours are excellent flirt lines. Actually, it means you interact well with people. And then that space in between the end of the heart line and the ring around the little finger, that's where your marriage lines show. And the marriage lines start at the outside of the hand, and they come in towards the palm. They don't have a real distinct timeline on them, but you can kind of eyeball it to see how long they're going to be. I can see one relationship line in there. It's real faint. So I'm reading up the first third from the end of the heart line up to the ring around the little finger. The first third of that's about age 20, 30. The next third is about 40, 50, and the last third is about 60, 70, 80. So I get one marriage line in there, but he dies before you do, because it tips down on the end. It's about 20 years long. Then your second marriage line is very good. It's quite long, maybe 30 years long. But again, the spouse dies first because it tips down on the end. Then that third marriage line's just a little shorty pie. Probably not even hardly 10 years. Maybe just 10 years. That's later in your life. So the only way I can tell when you're going to marry is on the left hand, on that fate line, and that's the line that starts down at the bottom of your palm, travels up to that Saturn line, and that's got a good timeline on it. About every half an inch is about 7 years, about every eighth of an inch is about a year. Where that fate line crosses over the headline, that's about age 42. So that's how you time that. What happens in that fate line on your left hand only, this is in the past hand, you'll get a little mark in there that's a chance to marry. And it's a little mark that looks like the letter Y, or at least the top part of the letter Y, where it forks out a little bit. Here's the ages that I can find on your chances to marry. You've got one right now at age 32. So I look along on that left hand, I look along that fate line to see where these little Y marks are. At age 32, at 38, at 40, at 44, 46, and I've got 46 underlined, which might be like the second marriage there. And then, let's see, 46 is underlined, 48, 63, and 65. That's probably that last little marriage line. And that's about the only way that I can tell on the lines. But then remember, you're the master of your fate, and you're the one that runs your life. Doesn't necessarily mean it's absolutely going to happen. You're the one that makes the choices in your life. The children lines are little lines that come, well, see where I've marked them in green? They're little lines that come down off of that ring around the little finger. They're not very long, they're about 3/8 of an inch long. And let me see, 1, 2, yeah, there's that third one. It's quite light. That first one might be a boy, and then a couple of girls maybe. The girl lines are darker because they have a better DNA. They have an XX DNA. The boys have an XY DNA. So it makes their line a little bit lighter because their DNA is not as strong as women. That's why men die 6 to 8 years before women do. So I get 3 children lines in there. Now, that lifeline is your pulmonary system. Like I say, you don't want to see breaks in it. Generally, if you see breaks, it's an operation where you're on artificial life support. No, you have no breaks in yours at all. Yours looks good. That's where your achievement lines are going to show, and they're little lines that come up off of that lifeline. They sometimes point to that Jupiter finger, or they point right straight up, or sometimes if they're real long or they've got a lot of color in them, they're quite important. I've circled the important ones. So here's where your achievement lines are off that lifeline. At age 11, 12, 18, circled at 22. That means they're a little more important than the others. 32, 40, 41, 46, circled at 49, circled at 51, circled at 56, circled at 58, 60, 62, 65, 67, circled at 70. That's why you might write at 70. What a big achievement. That would be interesting. Or any of those other times where you've got circled lines. On the left hand, that's going to show you who your guardian angels are. Your guardian angels are somebody that's died that you bonded to, and they kind of watch over you. You know, like grandma, grandpa, aunties, uncles, cousins, parents, siblings, old boyfriends, old girlfriends. On the left-hand side, you'll have little lines inside that lifeline. They'll come up and touch on the lifeline, then they make a line that goes across the lifeline. And that's the age you were when somebody passed away that you bonded to. So here's the age. You were 10 when somebody passed away, 14 and 15. Oh, the one at 15 is a really good one. I'm circling that one. And then you go to your right hand. If you've ever had a visit from a guardian angel, it's going to show on that right hand, but it just shows with a line that comes up and touches on the lifeline. There's a good timeline on that lifeline. And it touches on that lifeline at the age you were when you had a little visit from a guardian angel. And sometimes when somebody dies, their spirit will come back and just kind of look over you a little bit. 14, 15, and 16. I wanted to look and see if the one at 15 is really, really good. I think it is. I think that's the one that hangs in there for about, let's see, 10. The edge of the hand is about age 10, 10, 11. Oh, yeah, 15. That line comes clear down. Oh, that one hangs around for about, oh my gosh, for about 12 years. So when you're 15, 12 from 15, that's about age 27. Oh, that one's gone already. Darn. But they were there for about 12 years, watching over you. Okay, so 14, 15, and 16, that's your visits from guardian angels. Your lines don't come together. Generally, those lines would come together in between, right there in between the thumb and the index finger. But you got a gap in there, so see that separate sheet says gap? You're strong-willed, independent, ambitious. So you might have to temper that a little bit. Extremely. You see, not only are your fingers sit wide apart, which means you're very independent, but you've also got that gap in that headline. Very intelligent headline. Now, where those little islands are, that's where you're kind of out of place in your spine. Kind of look at that spine chart. You already know what a vertebrae looks like, and you know that two nerves come off of each side of each vertebrae. Then those nerves go to different areas of the body. Your skull, your eyes, your ears, your nose, your lungs, your stomach. Then they all end up in your hands and your feet. And so, if you're out of place in the spine, on that spine chart, look over there at the farthest side. That's the effects you get when those vertebrae are out of place. And then that other column where it says areas, that's where the nerves go to from that part of the spine. And you're kind of out right there at the base of your cervical vertebrae and at the top part of your thoracic, about where your base of your neck is, where you lean over these darn computers all the time. And I'm sure you're doing your share of that. Usually if you're out at the top part of that spine, you'll throw you out in the lower spine. Let me see if you're... No, I don't see you out too much in the lower spine. But you sure are out in that neck area. Been bending over that computer too much. Boy, I'll tell you, I used to read in the 90s. I didn't see that at all, but now all over the world I'm seeing that people are out of place in that neck area. And straight across your hand that line goes. The more intelligent you are, and yours goes right across. Very intelligent. You're getting this slight dip on the end, which is a little tiny bit of depression, but it's not too bad. Fate line is the one that starts at the base of your palm, and it runs up to that Saturn line. And where that crosses over that headline, that's about age 42. So about every half an inch is about 7 years, every eighth of an inch is about a year. Now that tells you about your career and your lifestyle. So breaks in that line are changes in either one or the other. So here's where your changes are. If it's a really big break in there or a big fork, I circle it. The changes are at age 24, 32, 35, 37. What are you, 32? Oh, you got a couple of good changes coming in at 40. Big change. Then age 47 to 52. And where that crosses over the heart line, that's about 52. There's 2 lines or jobs or responsibilities. And then it kind of stops up in there, and it doesn't continue up very good. I had to go over and see, it stops right there at about age 52. I don't see it going up much further in that right hand. So I had to go to the left hand, and then I saw the fate line continuing up there. See how that in the left hand, how that continues up to that middle finger? And that's what makes me think you'll probably retire at 52. But then that can, on your left hand, that you got a real faint line that continues up into that finger. Where that crosses that ring around the middle finger, that's 80. And I could get that line go up and up there until about 92 years old. Unless you have some kind of an accident or something at age 52. Well, the right hand is the present and the future, and the left hand is the past. It doesn't matter what handed you are. The right hand is always the present, the left hand is always the past. So we're going to go around the chart and do your fingers. The fingers are your talents. It doesn't matter whether they're long or short. Each one has different meanings. Nothing's good or bad. Then we'll do the palm last of all, the lines in the palm. So look down there at the bottom right hand corner where it says palm shapes. Now the shape of their palm is one of the most important talents that you have. And you got kind of a squarish palm. Oh, you got a really square palm. Very athletic. Athletic and practical. Then look in the upper right hand corner of the chart, and the type of fingertips is your personality. You got one pointy finger, like fine things, sensitive, diplomatic, and practical. Generally pointed finger people are collectors. And then round, intuitive, quick, great, compassionate. Should be in the health field, which you are. I see those round fingers on the doctors and the nurses all the time. Alright, jump down there to your thumb now. The thumb's kind of short. It's just bordering on short. It's kind of average. You work well with numbers. So it's just kind of semi-short. Okay, then that index finger. Oh, you're not the boss in your NICU unit? When that index finger is kind of short, that means you're a really good self-motivated worker. You don't have to be managed. You don't have to have a boss tell you what to do. I'm surprised you're not the boss, though. If that's real long, that means you're the boss. But it isn't. That's a self-motivated worker. It's very good. That business finger is just excellent. Good business sense. You know how to make money. That's an independent marking also, when that's quite prominent, the tops of the fingers. Anyway, good business sense. You know how to make money. Then that ring finger, that sun finger, that's a creative finger, and that's quite long also. Very good. Creative, imaginative, inventive. But you've also got one nice creative achievement line coming up. You must have some kind of a hobby that's kind of creative, because the shape of your palm is the creative palm. And then that little finger, it's quite long also, and I don't see that very often in women. It means you work well with words and letters, scholarly, loves paperwork. I'm sure you don't love paperwork. But that is the writer's finger, and that would be so interesting if you would write about being in the neonatal unit. Oh my gosh, that would make a good story.